Let's see.
No.
All right, do we have a motion to open the subcommittee MBTA planning board meeting for August 13th, 2024?
So moved.
You have a second? Second, anybody want to talk about that? Roll
Let's
call
open
vote.
it.
Mr. Lawrence, roll call vote.
Hi.
Mr. Woodhams.
Aye.
I think that aye, 3 in favor, no one opposed, motion carries. All right. I think when we left off at the planning board meeting, in summary, I think we had good feedback, a really good discussion. I think we honed in on, as a matter of fact, I kept my tally sheet. I was trying to tally the sites that each planning board member preferred. And when it came down to it, we had pretty much aligned, I think, on several, 13, 10, 1, and we'll go through those. And then your other map. I don't know if we can toggle between the maps or not. Your map with all your circles and then the ones you X'd out and all that.
I'm a professional.
What we were basing it on was number one, we went through all of the proposed guidelines. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 edits. But in concept, I think the principles were adopted by the planning board. That we went over in the subcommittee at the planning and then at the planning board again. And we have a map with more circles on it than we have room in the town right now, but a lot of them are X'd out. So we might want to use that with when we present that we looked at a lot of things. And we summarized to a few.
Yeah, because it's certainly, you know, we've gone around with multiple sites and the pluses and minuses of them. It's not like we just pulled stuff out of nowhere. So.
I think we should tell them this is it. Love it or leave it.
Yeah, and I think I think one of the early feedback we got from the planning board was, yes, Rachel, you and your consultant did your work and we boil it down to 2 sites. There was some question about whether we should peel it back and just make sure we've looked at everything in different ways. And I think we've done that. So the sites that we kind of focused around were 13, which is in the upper right-hand corner up around Route 1 on the Foxborough side. 10, which actually depicts, it should be lower than that on the chart, but it's down lower on that on the Plainville line, which is the Armitage, I think, property.
No, this includes the Armitage as well, but it also includes Wrentham Crossing.
Yeah, we kind of
At that
nixed the
time.
crossing and moved it down to those 2 potential Armitage
Yeah,
properties.
I think that circle does include it.
Okay, but I then make a new circle and get rid of 10 with them all.
Right.
I'm just saying it wasn't, I think when we looked at it, it was those 2 properties, this property, we'll go through it. 1, which is in the upper left corner on the Franklin line. Whether that's the Placido development or the commercial, I think both of those were up for discussion. 14, mixed reviews on 14, but could be considered potentially. 1 was also a mixed I'm sorry, wait a minute. Is that 1? 13, 10, 1. 13, 10, 1, 13, 10. 13, 10, and then 1. So 4, yeah. So 1 was a bit of mixed review as to whether it's the Placido or the commercial. 14 is a bit of mixed review over on Route 1. 12 was a bit of mixed review, which is the gravel pit or other properties down in there, concerned about the lake, making the lake worse. We nixed number 6 off the list. And so what we said from last week was let's dig deeper in those sites, those corners, and see what sites we may want to look at. And so are you off, Jim?
Apparently not.
Believe, but it won't.
There we go.
You're here in duplicate. Okay, so and I think Devin, I think we could, all those other ones we've taken off previously. So if we go to, let's see, the first one on, we're 1 and 12, so if we go to the other document,
Your PowerPoint?
yeah. Credit zoom in on some of the other, zoom in on some pieces of this. We had a question on number 1, which is 78 Asylum, 233 acres, which essentially encompasses the gravel pit.
Number 12.
Number 12, but site 1 up here, yeah. See the 1 in the box.
Yep, I gotcha.
So the question was that we posed, and I don't know if we have an answer for it, is can we put part of this on part of a lot, on somebody's lot? So 233 acres, we don't need it. Could we make it 25 acre piece of that 233? I don't know. We don't have an answer to that yet, right?
It would probably be flagged with HLC. It's just difficult. It's more difficult for me because I have to now create a sub parcel out of this bigger parcel and create its own ID and everything, type of thing. So that's all. But
This is
It's
also the
also-
parcel that is above the lake, right?
yes, this is all above the lake and it also is right, I think that's water property or Conservation Commission property right over there by Elysium Street, or both. I do
Okay,
believe there is a
with the
well
hash
down
marks?
there at the end of that Elysium or.
All of
With the
that.
hash marks?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, it's Wallamonapog, right?
So concerned about whether or not we could keep,
and then Sweat Park Beach is right above number 3 on the right hand side and that hatched.
yeah, I believe. So that was one of the sites. The second site is kind of further down. I don't know if there's access to it, but there's another 68 acres in that bottom left corner, number 2,
Which is the middle.
which is the middle one. 68 acres, 230 Elysium Street. I don't actually know. I guess you'd have to go through other property to get there. Oops.
Yeah.
But it was another piece in that quadrant. And then the other one is number 3, which is 33 acres bordered between Sweat Beach, the houses that are on.
Yeah,
the
that's a
lake.
hillside.
And that's all treed, if I'm not mistaken.
It's big hillside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big.
But those were the 3 parcels that I picked up on that side of the road as we talked about number 12. We can go through them all and come back, or we can go through these and say,
Still the same concerns about, impact on the lake.
Yep.
3 is closer to the lake than 2, and maybe 2 is slightly closer than 1, the main part of it. So.
Size.
It sounds like you like that site up there.
I do, because, well, here's the reason. I think it fits in with something that's not gonna, maybe not 3. But number 1, I think is a longer term development. If they're gonna continue to mine that, are they gonna wait till they fill it with water when they?
So is the dotted area that where the hole is that I've never seen in 1? Or is that some conservation right above the 1 box?
Go to the left picture,
Yeah, left picture, right above the 1
the
box.
left and up.
There's that border, dotted border in the middle of the property. What does that represent? Is that just
A
a
trail.
elevation line or?
It was probably a trail,
Okay, got it. Right. So
or it could be a roadway.
where's
I
the
was
actual?
going- I was going to switch to the aerial mapping, but I will stay on this.
No, that's fine. I don't care. I'm just, where's the pit? Is the pit in number 2 that they're digging out?
The pit is in, I think, number 1, isn't it?
I looked on Google Maps and the pit encompasses both lot 1 and 2.
It is down there.
There's 2 separate holes, but one is all in 1, the other one's primarily in 2. You can see it by the outline of the map.
Okay.
They have gravel in most of their site.
Are you accepting any comments from the audience?
We will. I think when we get through this, because we have a lot to present. for
My
everybody.
interest is 12, so that's, I didn't know whether you're keeping it to towards the end.
We would certainly open up for public comment. I
This was-
see. Okay, so it's in 2.
Okay,
that shows.
And it's in,
Earth removal 1 and 2.
All right. So that could be, that little line that I was talking about could be a road around the edge of it,
around the whole pit.
right?
Yeah, not anything, when we're talking about a road, it's not anything that's an accepted road for frontage. The
No,
only frontage
right.
that this parcel has is on Elysium's.
Whatever the trucks are using to get whatever they dig up out of that hole out of there, yeah. So those are private paths or trails that they're using. Okay,
So those were the 3 and 12, and if it's specifically your question is related to 12 in those 3 lots. Certainly,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
and just
it.
name and address for the record.
I tried to speak at the public hearing. I was on the Zoom meeting. I think I talked to you about that on email. I was speaking, but you couldn't hear me, so my apologies.
Ah.
I would not have come and bothered you tonight.
Oh, no problem.
I'm Jennifer Firk. I live at 10 Wilford Road, so I'm somewhere in the water. I have concerns with obviously the environmental impact, because you have a town well there, you have Low Montauk, you have the lake, which is a significant resource to the town, and it's all a common aquifer, so, you know, the damage one, damage everything. And I walk there around, Elysium Street on a regular basis. Do you understand how much truck traffic there is? I mean, and there's as you get closer to the pit, it's loud. So I can't even imagine anyone living down that way and having all the truck traffic is continuous. And there's significant white noise, and I think Bird Incorporated owns the quarry. I think it's all over Russo's. That's considered buffer land. I think that's why he owns it all. So I just wanted to point that out to you, because I just can't imagine anyone living any closer to the quarry than I do at my house, and I hear the hum all day long. It's a Friday sometimes, and the truck traffic is frightening. I definitely wouldn't welcome children to live.
I guess in the back of my mind is one of the reasons why I'm thinking this might be a good one. What we're trying to do is not only spread this out, but pace it out. So the town doesn't get this impact all at once. So putting it in different spots where road networks aren't impacted to a great deal, and then putting it hopefully over a period of time. The question being, 2 questions being, would this be a longer term play for whatever's here? If we put 25 acres over here, could they do it now, or would they have to wait until after the pit is done and it fills with water, and then they start to develop the land around it?
Well, I lived here for 40 years and it's still has.
Right, well,
Yeah,
I think I'll be long dead by then, so if that's what you're waiting for.
and maybe that pushes it, out.
Jeeps there when I was in high school, so that's even further than 40 years ago.
And then if we wrote the reg right, or for the 20, whatever amount of acreage we put here, if we wrote the reg right, could we actually make sure that whatever comes from here and goes down towards the lake, and maybe even some things on the lake, could get fixed as part of this development? That might be a stretch, but if we said, hey, you're gonna build a sewer treatment plant to put in, what are we, 25 acres, 15 units an acre is 300 and
Yeah, right.
Right, 350, you're gonna need a septic plan or a sewer treatment. Could we, as part of the development, mitigate issues that are already posed on the lake with this development? So the town gets a benefit, we get to build this, the state gets what they want. It's over a longer period of time, it's in the right corner of town. Those are the things that are going through my mind as to how this might be a viable site, but longer term.
From a practical standpoint, just going back to the discussion we just had. Can we put just 25 acres here? It's a 200 some odd acre site. Rich was talking about the difficulty of trying to parse that out into smaller pieces. There was one of the parcels that you showed was close to 25, it was 33 acres.
Yeah.
Whether if we can't easily cut 25 acres out of this, it's sort of, is it an all or nothing thing? And if it's all, then no, we don't want to give them 230 acres and say, here, have at it.
Fair question. Yeah, I think we have to know that answer.
I'm just looking at the back end of this, you know, so the bottom lot under consideration looks kind of like an hourglass from here, right? Very loosely, like a figure eight. Yes, that one. Let's say I bought that lot and I want to develop, I am not running a road to Elysium Street. I am looking at King Street off of Franklin. Is that, I'm looking at coming back through that way, right? Because that's 495, isn't it, in the bottom left? You know, how are they gonna, I don't think they're gonna go up through that property to Elysium Street, so they're gonna have to. What is that? Is that where you see the beach and everything, when you drive up 495 off to the right, that pond in Franklin?
It's further up.
What is that
You're
pond?
talking about Beaver Pond in Franklin, that's further up.
Okay, what's that pond? I've never seen it. That's King Street? It's off of King Street there?
King Street's not in this.
What, is that Chestnut Street?
King is quite a ways out.
Is that Chestnut in summer or? What is the road going under 495 right there? Is that Summer Street?
Oh, is that,
Runs into Franklin?
you're talking.
That road.
This one, right?
Yeah. So is that
Is this the
Chestnut
West
that comes off of it this way? Yeah.
What is the name of that? That's,
So what excuse me, what I think is maybe. This or something here is Chestnut, which goes out to this Summer Street, which goes all the way up and over the hill and into King Street and eventually into Franklin that way.
Summer Street. There you go.
Yeah, so this is our Chestnut Street, which is what, you know. And I don't know what this is. And I don't know if that's a paper road that we have a cell phone tower on. Is that where that thing went? Up in
I
there?
think you're right. That's
No,
what-
it's owned by the, I think the Rod and Gun Club.
Okay,
And they're looking.
but we had a
to
cell tower
right now.
somewhere in this neighborhood, didn't we? That we had it was on the back of somebody's lot right up against 495, as I recall, 3-4 years ago.
Well, could they get there? Cause I don't know if they own the next piece of parcel down.
I think they put the cell tower like here and they were gonna access it by some easement off of this cul-de-sac, which I'm not even sure is a constructed cul-de-sac, but. That's, for the purposes of this conversation, that's not an important thing, but I'm saying, if you're trying to develop this, I don't know that you're gonna try to get your way all the way across this pit. I think you're looking to come here or here somehow, and I don't even know how to do that.
Developer's issue that he has to solve.
Of course it
If
would
we
be.
put it on two.
So,
But would that?
isn't there something where the land has to be developable?
The state is not, it's a landlocked parcel.
Right,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, I would think that that is.
If it has to be developable, that's not gonna work. They're not gonna accept it.
That's gonna.
I'd rather not assume the state is gonna. I know they've got all their, if we're built by their rules and regs, the only place that they would accept it is right down here with 750 units, because that's what they want. They want it right in the center of town and they want you to be able to walk to the stores.
There are other areas in town that fits. Doesn't have to be in the downtown, and it's only a unit capacity. Those units never have to be built. Which in a town that doesn't have sewer, that's what's gonna happen.
Understood, but if you put it in the wrong spot, it could be built, so.
Completely understand.
I wanna go back to a question I had earlier about, splitting, this parcel into two separate zoning districts.
Just name an address for the record, so we get it.
Leo living in 650 East Street.
Thanks.
I served in the zoning board and we ran into situations in my research, various things where parcels were split by the zoning district. And ended up tremendous fall because you had a a parcel owner could do something on one part, but couldn't do it in the other part. And therefore the general practice of zoning is you stick your zoning lines along the edges of parcels. And you don't subdivide because it also the problems that occur when you do that.
I wonder if it's different with an overlay, because he could do the underlying zoning under that overlay. And it's the same versus having the overlay on a certain parcel. So to me, that might be the reason we could put the overlay anywhere we wanted on X number of acres, because you can still do the underlying zoning. But we can move off of this if we think this is too challenging.
Yeah, I like the thought process of, you know, it's something that's certainly, once it's lived its useful life as a gravel pit, will be considered an underutilized piece of land, which is one of the state's things. But I
In the
think.
R87 district, I don't think it'll be underutilized for very long.
The other thing
But as
is,
a gravel pit, it would be considered.
it may or may not be landlocked. It's owned by the same owner, and there are roads out there that get from different pits to different places to Elysium Street. So I would challenge whether or not it's really landlocked. And the state would say you can't do that. I think there are access points from Elysium out of that spot.
Okay, so you are, if you pick this site, the state would flag this as causing an undue financial burden on this property to have to build and fully construct a road down Elysium Street.
Okay, let them flag it. It's a parcel of land that's underutilized, it's
Street is
close
a
to the
very
MBTA. They would have to improve the road as part of their development, whatever it is that we could put on them to have to do. I don't think we're trying to make it easy on a developer to go in and build this.
But if you make it unduly difficult, it's never gonna pass the muster from the state.
It gets rejected and then we're back to
Okay,
not having access to the things that we would prefer to have access to.
then we're not out of compliance because we've submitted and we have to go back and resubmit and look at other sites and. go through
You
the
would be out of
process,
compliance, they would find you out of compliance.
Whether they
I think that's.
give us a grace period after being out of compliance, if we at least make a good faith effort, that's, whether, you know, that's the state's decision whether they wanna do that. But, you know, but
I'll just say that I think parcel 3 of those 3 parcels. On a hill overlooking the lake. If you want, on a road that's already kind of built, I think if you wanted to give them an appealing place to want to build. I think that might be more appealing than anything else you got going on there. Beach down at the base and yada yada, and maybe they think they can solve, or they convince whoever that they can solve the runoff problems, et cetera, et cetera. You know.
They're 3 meters, I think. but they're
Probably
labeled.
easier to develop as a parcel that doesn't have anything on it, it's got a lot of frontage and. It's woods, so maybe. Viable. But maybe very easily developed too.
That's what I'm saying. Of the 3, if what we're thinking is we'd like to. We'd like to at least give them something that's gonna be more of a challenge so that they think twice or take a little bit more time to figure it out. That's not the one. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
I agree.
that's also,
from the developer standpoint, I think that's the most attractive of the 3 without question.
that's also the one that acreage wise
Is closest.
doesn't give somebody a massive lot possibly.
Right. I mean, and we had a lot of feedback that we don't want it close to, as close to the lake as that.
Right.
because of the issue. So we can cross out. 3.
Rachel, how many acres was that one? Do we know off the top of our head?
Number 3?
Yeah.
33.
33.
In the maps, I did do insets of each of them, and they do have the acreage listed on them, as well as the owner.
Okay.
Not on the PowerPoint, that was Mike's, mine is
But I put the
later on in it.
acreage too.
Yeah, okay, good.
So we take out number 3, we have a question on number 1. Whether it can be a piece of it. And then 2, maybe we bring to the planning board as. Let's have the same discussion.
Okay. Moving on.
You want, if we go, any other comments on 12? All right, why don't we go to cross the street, which are the 2 little boxes to the right? I had part of, but maybe all of the commercial. For some reason, those are in, I think those are in 2 different lots, the one that. Rachel, if you bring it up. On the right here, so the first part of it, just beyond the water, came up as 1 lot, I didn't do the back half. I think there's wetlands and everything else, and I don't think we can get to the back half, so.
No,
It's just this one at 26 acres on the commercial district.
And it's not built.
Now,
I don't have any problems with that one. I actually think that's maybe the only reason not to choose it is because it could be reasonably easy to build, but I don't think that's a great reason not to choose it. I think that where it is in town, close to the T, like we've talked about, with all the guidelines that we went over. That one actually, I don't think it's easily developed because there is some water there and it would have been developed a while back if it had been easy to develop, but maybe with the uniformity of this guideline, somebody can do something that hasn't been done in the past. And maybe this is, and it's the right size to me. It's that 26 acres and no more kind of thing, right? And so
Only
we're not giving them a bunch of extra.
only thing with that is you have to take out all the wetland as from the acreage, correct? So it's not 26 acres, it's considerably less. And the other side, much with the concern that I had voiced, or at least asked Rachel about with the former Snow property, as far as possibly accessing an adjacent town's sewer
Right.
system. It's right on the Franklin line. Franklin has town sewer that they could possibly strike a deal with. And not that that's necessarily a deal break, because in other aspects, that property makes sense, because it is probably the single closest lot we have in town to an actual T station.
Right.
So, and it's right now, it's a piece of land that's just sitting, it's commercial and you want. Again, you're balancing that, do you want to take something out of it commercial?
Right.
But nobody's developing it as commercial now. We've had 2 or 3 proposals since I've been on the board. Where they've come and they've looked at that and it comes and it goes and nothing ever happens.
Do we know how many net acres there are without wetlands, Rachel?
It's just doing
We did say commercial, please.
As Chuck mentioned, there have been more than one applicant
17.
for the town who one got approved, project approved. And we have between that lake you see there and 140, there are, wetlands there. And what happened was the applicant went ahead and gravelled out all the upland. So now the wetlands happen to be 15 feet above the existing grade, which is an absurd situation. So
Wow.
it's just amazing to think that this person can now be developing this thing for residential development. It's like insanity. He's used the town and now we're giving him reward. I have a very big bias because of being a country commissioner.
taking out the excluded land for that parcel shown as 96 Franklin Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is a total of 17 acres that are developable.
Okay, so we couldn't get our
Still,
one big
it's still-
parcel there, but we could get maybe
Maybe 8 and,
maybe a something there.
Yeah.
And then
okay.
30 industrial roads, what is that, all the interior stuff?
That's one I picked up as not developed, but I got another email from Joanna McFarland. We talked a little bit, because she was very interested in overlaying the existing development now. She indicated that's how Norfolk did it. They overlaid existing developments.
Norfolk
So
is
that's
a-
Eagle
is-
Brook, right? That
Norfolk
development?
is a commuter rail, so they are required to have a certain percentage of their station, of their district within
But
that.
they overlaid
Station.
things that you wouldn't tear down necessarily, right, to get.
Only
But
because,
they
they're- only
also
because they're
have-
limited as to.
Because they
where
had to be
can put
next to it,
right? They-
okay.
Yeah, they had to do it within a half a mile of the station.
So I only picked up this piece of property in the middle of that, but we got the whole Placido development, and there was question
has
whether we
quite a
could
big-
overlay it.
Yeah, and again, not that this matters, because it's never gonna get built, but he has quite an extensive, commercial, project planned for that site, but not that it matters for you
Right.
guys, for this.
And it wouldn't matter because he could still do the underlying zoning, but that's not, is that commercial, that interior portion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was gonna he was talking about putting, like like a restaurant in there and some kind of daycare and something else
It was a-
for all the Eagle Brook people. He wanted it to be like a walkable, town center for the Eagle Brook people.
Say
Kind
it's
of
a
how he promoted
multi-stage
it to
project.
us, as I recall. So. Now, this says 18.8 acres. It looks like it's 2 lots. Is that just 1 lot with a very narrow connector?
Correct.
Okay, so that is commercial in between? No.
No, the whole thing, the purple, C1.
So we put residential in the commercial zone over there?
That's all
40B.
40B
all
project.
40B.
And all of the housing over there is under the 40B. There's about 3 different 40B projects over there.
It's all 40B. So. And lot B, are those homes that are already built or proposed?
Um,
Or is that,
I'm sorry,
are those homes that are already built in 6 or B or whatever is just to the northeast? Yeah,
that is residential. They're duplexes, all rentals.
already built.
They are being built right now.
Okay, got it. So this parcel that we're talking about is where the town hall moved to when this was under renovation.
They're
Yes.
Right under, those two.
Yeah.
Darkened areas,
Yeah.
they're sort of double.
And this is 18.8 acres, so it doesn't need it. But if you overlaid. Came out to the road. With those other lots, you might be able to get to 25 acres here. You already have 40B, you already have. A big residential development.
Well, that's
I mean,
why
maybe
I
this is a part
thought
of town.
this was okay. That's why I thought this was okay. If it's not, if it's not automatically disqualified to overlay your commercial district or whatever, I just felt like it has everything going for it that the one we just talked about has, except we're not rewarding the guy who already, screwed the town over.
My guess is, so if we're gonna overlay in here, we could overlay in a different part. Versus the commercial that he wants to develop, so we keep those commercial tax. Revenues in the future, and maybe we create the overlay. On 25 acres of land that,
Well, just because we overlay, it doesn't mean he doesn't develop it as commercial.
true. He might, from a revenue standpoint, wanna put more housing here, I don't know, versus commercial. I don't know. I think it feels like a viable area.
Of what we've talked about so far, I'd say that seems to have the least definite problems.
That's 12 acres. 12.5 acres.
That's 12.5 in that lot,
Correct.
And
and
that fronts on Stonewall.
No, that Stonewall isn't an actual road. It's just
Oh,
a driveway.
okay.
It's Eagle Brook. This is 5 Eagle Brook Drive. Which is a town accepted. road.
so basically you're saying, if you said those 12.5 acres, which are in the process of getting duplexes rentals built on them. And another piece that size, now you've got 25 acres, if you want to try to put the 25 here. But you could just put 12 there. And
Yeah, if we could,
so be it.
let's see if we could find.
It's already
another
gonna be,
site for
it's
25.
already being developed as. Duplexes, which is a residential use, but I don't know if they have to pay commercial taxes or what. They don't have to pay commercial taxes just because they're in a commercial zone if they build a residential use, right? Right, okay. So we're not losing a residential. Not losing a commercial use.
No, but you know what we might be losing? Do we lose credit to the 40B?
I have no idea. I have no
Because
idea.
wasn't there something where they were trying to avoid having towns this over 40B that already existed? The credit, those units.
Yeah, I mean,
Under
he's
40B.
pretty far into this project, so I don't know as though he would. Stop that at this point, but yeah, I mean, the 40B is reviewed and approved through HLC, so I don't know what that process would be. I do, Mr. Mr. Skinner is on as well.
Could you get 25 acres if you left that 40B out and did everything to the left and down to 140? So that lot,
But again, you're talking about taking.
and then the lots down on 140.
We'd have to add all,
How
that.
big is
I'm
that?
sure you could, yeah,
You wanna hear
Sure.
from Bill Skinner?
What's that?
You wanna hear from Bill Skinner?
Oh, he's on?
He's on with his hand raised.
Oh. How much is, that one is, we said, is 18 acres. I would imagine we can come up with another 7 acres. Maybe, if you add lots 1, 2, 4.
And 6, or whatever there. 1, 2,
whatever
4,
those are,
1 and
5 and
6.
6. I think it's 5. Mr. Skinner, welcome.
All the way down to the street, Rich. Just go all the way home.
Thank you. Have my hand raised because most of 8 already has buildings on it.
Correct. We believe we can overlay in areas that already have buildings. on it.
26.57 acres.
Possible.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that you understood that it's not vacant land.
Yeah,
26.57 acres right there. Without that lot 1 up on,
which is what?
maybe vacant, didn't really show it, maybe a tiny building up there.
So it's a possibility, if the overlay were there, that it fits in with our location, it might fit in with the
Yeah.
context around what's happening.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to, or he could build that commercial, or he could build it residential.
Correct.
25 acres. 250, so it's 375. 375 homes.
Oh, it's 25 acres worth, whatever you're, you
So
know,
375 and 15 units an acre.
that's fine.
so we're adding more parcels in.
That was the thought.
Yeah, it looks like we'd be adding that one and all the ones next to it down to the lower right corner. From what you circled before.
So that's James's Cafe, the one you
Yeah.
just did?
That's like the Landscape
No.
America.
Oh, that's, okay.
I am writing down these addresses right now, so that
Okay.
way I can go into the GIS later
Great.
and add them to the compliance model
Yeah.
for when you guys
It
determine
might be
which
the
ones you want to settle
red
on.
box thing there, or maybe that's up in Franklin. I think that's up in Franklin, the storage unit.
Oh,
As
James,
a matter of fact, I think that the corner one of Industrial and Franklin is the self-storage.
oh, yeah.
And then James's,
James's.
and then Landscape America,
No, then the,
No,
then
professional
then whatever's there, and then Landscape America.
Do you want to also include 26 Industrial Road?
Sure,
Yeah, it's fine.
that corner.
I got
Okay.
nothing else to do.
It does make it a more uniform kind of. Okay,
How about this one? What about this one?
no.
Let's,
No?
Rachel, if that's what you'd like to do, we're trying to be constructive here, define 25 acres, so
No.
whatever works
No,
in that corner,
Okay.
let's figure out how we can present that to the planning board as an option.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, and I apologize. I thought we were narrowing down sites and
We are.
just adding more.
we are, so far, this is the most promising one from the conversation.
Of all the sites we
With
just
those
talked
things
about.
added.
Fantastic. I love it. Let's move on.
All right, what's the next one?
We're moving over to Route 1 Foxborough Town Line. I believe.
Okay. New share, going back to the PowerPoint.
I like it. Okay,
So I believe we talked about the lot up in the up in that left corner, which was I think it's 69 acres, 586 East Street.
yes, it seems to me that's, in back of Dalzell Volvo, which is going out of business, if not out of business, or moved to another location. I don't even think they're operating out of there much. I think
Does
that's
it
awesome.
I don't think they're doing much in sales. I think they're still just in service.
Does it have frontage on Route 1?
Does not appear
It
to.
does not.
It's not gonna do it.
So you might want to include those few lots on Route 1 so it could have access versus going off of.
Well,
We've already
No.
got 69
That's a trailer
acres, so how much of that are
Okay.
you?
here's. Here's my thought on this. If we're gonna look at seriously considering the property on 140 that we just talked about, 140 in Industrial Road as the 25 acre piece, I would take this off the table completely. I wouldn't want to encourage anybody to, because that's, to me, the only reason for including this would be to make this the larger parcel that we have to consider. Otherwise, I would not want to encourage that density of building there. If we've got an alternate for the 25 acre piece, I would not want to include this. If the other one doesn't pan out, then maybe this might be a good alternative to, but I would be hesitant to put two parcels of that size out there for someone to be able to develop.
Is this more of a pristine site is what I just said?
Undeveloped, it is open, undeveloped land. Fields from 140, you look up, it's fields and then it hits the tree line, which goes all the way through to Parker Pond. Backs up to the property where
Solar
the
arrays.
solar thing's gonna go in, right, exactly,
Right, 'cause that's the next one over.
yes.
Well, let's talk about that one. So,
28 acres, solar farm. Route 1 access.
but
I've
to me,
already seen, yeah,
What?
Route 1, I don't, in the amount of deaths that I've seen since I've been here, I don't think that's a good idea, putting any more traffic onto Route 1. Unless and until they put up a median to restrict traffic.
likely they're not gonna put up a median until they get more traffic up there, right? I mean, I don't know how many deaths triggers a median in this
Supposedly,
state.
they're in
but-
they're in the engineering phase now.
Yeah,
If you overlaid this, part of the development requirement would be safe access to Route 1, so maybe they have to help pay for engineering or something to move along the safe access component on Route 1.
Is that a undue financial burden to put?
I
on the
wouldn't think
developer?
so.
I'm just thinking of things that
There's
just.
a lot of sites
down for.
There's a lot of sites on Route 1 that have to be developed, that are going to be developed, and they're gonna have to figure out access to Route 1 safely. And if they can't, maybe they can't get the approval for it right away until that happens. So maybe this parcel is a really good one where gives options of solar, or gives options of housing. This is 25 acres.
Yeah,
Or-
28 says. I mean, the thing about the positive about this lot is it puts almost no new traffic onto the lesser roads of the town. Right? And how do you make sure that it's safe to get onto Route 1? Well, basically, you make it only going on one way. You have no left-hand turn, or you build a ramp over, you add an infrastructure thing like they did up at Gillette to get people up and over going the other way. Other than
I'm
that,
gonna make somebody pay for that, then
you're not gonna make them do anything, but if they,
but if you're saying that the only way they can develop it is if they do that, then you're in.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if they feel like, safe access for their people, they can go down to a light and take a U-turn. I mean, they don't have to.
Knowing where that frontage is and
Yeah.
what Route 1 is at that spot, I don't think you have any way to have safe access from housing onto Route 1 at that spot. The only reason it works for the solar thing is because it's not gonna develop, there's not gonna be traffic. There'll be a truck in there every once in a while to do a maintenance thing or whatever, but you're not gonna have the kind of traffic in and out of it that you would get from a residential property. And that is right at Route 1 where it does this. Dives down, turns left. There've already been deaths on that corner in car accidents.
Well, and if you say just right turns,
On
it
that
takes
bit.
away one of the main purposes of putting it up at this corner is because it's close to the Foxborough.
Good point.
So that may not work.
There's no way you're gonna try to take a left-hand turn out of there, not at that spot on.
But with that kind of density, could they get a light put in there?
I guess a fundamental question for me is. You could say this site's full of ledge and it's an undue cost for to blow the ledge and put a building on it, okay? We're trying to come up with reasons not to do it from a cost standpoint for the developer. I would look at it differently and say, well, if that's the cost of going in and you wanna put the residential, it makes sense.
Yeah,
Blast all the ledge, or put in the traffic improvements, or do the. Whatever else they have to do to make it work, that becomes a business decision with a developer, we're trying to solve for, in some cases. We're trying to solve for his cost issues, or the state saying it's not viable because of cost. When it really shouldn't be our perspective, in my opinion, we should be saying, where does it make sense? And then if a developer's gonna do it, they're gonna pay the cost for whatever those improvements are that they have to do. Whether it's rock, whether it's highway issues or traffic issues or.
But
road.
the sites that you are picking specifically have those issues associated with them as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
It's the
you know,
cost of going in to develop residential, if that's a beautiful, if that's the best spot to get to the T station. And a developer wants to develop it that way, then.
I'm inclined to think, yeah, I'm inclined to think that. It's above our pay grade to say what is too much of a cost to develop and what is not too much of a cost to develop.
And that's fine, but if you wanna.
Are there some
you wanna-
extra costs there as opposed to a flat parcel? Right next door to the T station with a private road between there's some extra costs there. But there are none that are like that.
But you're, just go into it knowing that you're taking the chance that you're gonna. Pick a parcel that the state is gonna reject.
Why would the state dig into traffic at that location? And say. They could go into any site that we choose and find something that means that you can't do it if they don't like the site, that's. To me, that's beyond their pay grade to say, you can't pick this site because
I
of traffic.
I don't disagree with you, but they're also the
Whether
ones
they
that
agree
are
with you or
holding all
not.
the cards.
Well, the other question is this, right? Let's say we put it. We're talking about what, 330 homes, right, in that Franklin, in that commercial space, that are Placido property, right?
Yeah.
We had 2 years of waiting for them to just put an extra turn lane at Park Street on 140. The extra traffic from 330 homes on 140 right there, don't you think that might trigger a light at Park Street or Creek Street or something in that area? You know, so I mean, because that road, that intersection, that's the word I'm looking for, that intersection was already at a grade whatever, right? That was practically ready to trigger at least a flashing light or something like that, as I recall. So I think it's hard to predict what the traffic impacts are gonna be and how far away, do you have to do a traffic study from a 330 unit development versus a 8-unit subdivision that some developer wants to put in out West Street, right? So I don't know the answers to those questions, but I think that's really developers' concerns. I think, if we knew, like, there's no way for them to do that. It just couldn't be done. That would be one thing. And I think we're almost said that on the first parcel. It's like, well, we can't even see them getting a road in, right? I don't see that here. I see they could do it. The safety and the interaction with Route 1 and traffic and everything else, I think that's a developer's.
and it's something that's already in your Route 1 district, and I wasn't bringing that up in regards to this parcel at all.
Yeah.
It was more in regards to, it seemed like you were going to be requiring some additional things within the bylaw for it, and if I misunderstood what you were saying, then I apologize. But it seemed as though you were going to be requiring them to do extra things within this MBTA communities
On the
bylaw. For this one here, for this 13, so that was my concern.
I think,
Or somebody brought up that concern, I didn't bring up a concern on this.
I brought up this wild idea of an extra ramp, but I mean, I don't know that. anybody
Well, I
would have
brought
to
up
say
on
that.
80 Washington, I don't think that additional traffic should be put on that road, especially in a use that's much different than what commercial is, has different use times.
we haven't gone over that one yet. 80,
Yeah, that's the solar one.
that's solar.
Yeah, you guys did.
That's what we're
You
talking
don't
about.
think, you don't think it should be.
Correct.
Anywhere on that
Anything
road.
Route 1.
But why? Route 1 is a very well-traveled road.
People are gonna be, you guys just talked about, they're gonna be taking the left.
Why are we, as part of the evaluation of an overlay, trying to figure out traffic issues?
No, and I wasn't, it seemed like that's where you were going in your discussion. That's not,
I'm trying to stay away from the traffic.
All right,
It's a
all right.
viable site.
Hold on, I think you're
Okay.
saying the same thing at different times. She was just confused earlier in the conversation because we had a big conversation about traffic and
Yeah.
how it could be made safe, right? And you thought we were gonna require that as a new part of the bylaw.
Yeah.
And so she started to wonder if that was really what we wanted to do, if I understand you correctly, Rachel. Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
not where I'm at. I'm saying this feels like a viable site. I'm not gonna worry about traffic on Route 1 because I can worry about 100 different things on sites if we start going that deep. So I'm like, if it can be developed and it meets our criteria, let the developer
It
figure
may
out.
be that the way the developer develops the entrance to that property makes it safer going down that hill and around that thing than it is now, because it's dark there. There's no lighting, I mean, you get out after Dalzell and it's just like a straight shot down to the Red Rooster, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, maybe some kind of a development there, or some kind of a gateway or an entrance would be lighted and it might attract more attention and people wouldn't not realize they were driving off the road in that corner or whatever. I mean, if we put a little cross at every place on Route 1 where there had been a death, I don't think there's a lot of room left for development, right? I don't like the fact that people die out there, but
yes, Route 1 is a commercial
yeah.
use mainly, and those times of usage are different than what a residential use is. And so on this road, you're used to seeing a high usage at certain times.
Right.
And that's what people here with driving, used to
Right.
that.
Right.
So adding in a use that has a different peak time is just a concern that I have. But
Okay. On the other hand, maybe
you don't have
that's.
to convince me, I don't live
I'm
here.
not convincing you, I'm just saying, maybe that also means that the traffic is spread into times where it's less busy. When it's not the same usage, right? So I don't know, I don't know.
And it's pretty close to the T station, so I mean, I feel like if we're trying to solve for MBTA, well, let's get these things close to T stations.
But like I said, my biggest positive on this is that it's not dumping any traffic onto the smaller roads in the town. I don't know that I have a real big, I mean, if half the town gets up in arms about, we can't have another car on Route 1 by our fault, then I guess we go over to, the De Placido property, it's like, but so far, those two in terms of the 25-acre possibility, to me, are the best two so far, because I would rather keep that 69 acres as is myself.
So I think I would agree that 28 acres covers us on the 25, it stays away from this pristine piece of property that we talked about first.
Right.
You okay with that as a recommendation? Sure.
He's not happy about it because of
Not
the,
happy on traffic, I understand that. But maybe that's how if we, or it doesn't get built.
Am I okay to put an X on this or no?
I don't have a problem with it.
Sorry, I jumped.
So should we move on and just get to the other ones and then see where we're at?
And I think we're gonna
We're
find,
gonna put an X.
we could put on X on everything we've found, right? So we just have to find some things that.
And then we come back to
Yeah.
this here.
But
And Walton
out
Corner.
of these two, are you leaning towards 80 Washington and not 856 East Street?
In my opinion, yes.
I think, I am definitely, I think the planning board should weigh in on it, but you've got a concern with that site being developed with the traffic issues.
That's my only concern.
Okay,
Other than that,
maybe it covers us with a 25-acre overlay that parses out the development of that over time until the traffic issues can be solved to
No,
develop.
the only other consideration with that is now you're putting potentially 375 units of dense housing and all the infrastructure related to that. Right on the edge of a sensitive conservation area. You know, one of. It's right next to Crocker Pond and it's upwind from Crocker Pond, which means everything's gonna flow towards it. And that piece of property was already contested from a conservation standpoint and conservation was overruled on it, but I don't disagree that it is potential for concern, and that was just for a solar farm. So put houses on there, that would be my only other thought. And like you said, you know, have to make it so that they have to make sure that it doesn't cause a problem with the pond. And that's on the developer to have to assure that, that's fine. Just throwing that out there, that is.
I see that.
Why don't we hold it in the limbo piece?
Okay.
For now, let's move on.
101 Washington Street, 2.7 acres.
101, you got 4.5 down below at 103.
Where are these? Across from Cocker Pond and Myrtle Street?
The two junkyards.
Junkyards.
Oh, those are Toof and Foot, okay. So I know there were, members of the board who didn't like the idea of, I almost feel like if we're gonna put something over there, I wish it would be bigger. So that the developer would have room to keep the amenities and whatever was there off of Route 1. To me, because these parcels are so small, they're like, the development itself has to be right on Route 1. And if you're talking about having families and this and that, I'm less excited about that. Personally. What's this other one down here?
The only benefit, it's right next to it. It's number 2.
805?
Yeah, those are two side by sides.
No, I mean the next one.
Oh, the next one I brought back a little bit for discussion, which is
That's the Gordon property.
Gordon property.
Oh.
Down by 495, Madison Street on the south side of that, Commerce.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah.
So why did we say?
Why did I bring it back?
No, why was it not there
We
in the first
nixed
place?
it a few meetings back. I think in one of our subcommittee meetings.
Because you're giving up 17 acres of
Of
what could be
C2,
considered prime
yeah, or
commercial.
Yeah, your
Oh, okay.
C1 south, which is your more permissive commercial, and
Okay.
that, this is where you
Better
want,
for your tax base.
yeah, you've got a
So
split
this
tax
is
base.
commercial, okay.
So this is good commercial, like useful
Yeah,
commercial.
really
It
good
would be,
And just on the other side of that dotted line, which is the Plainville Town line, there is development in the works.
Well, for the past 10 years.
did they get approved finally to put
Well,
that
they're going
market
back,
basket
aren't
in?
they?
They've had a permit for 10 years now.
Oh, okay, they just haven't done it.
Yeah,
okay.
meanwhile, Demoulas has bought other properties and they're building elsewhere, so.
Stop.
But I also heard that they bought one of the liquor licenses in Plainville.
No, that was Jeff Kinney. For his downtown.
Okay, so.
All right. if you
So the
wanna take
right
it back
hand
up.
three, I'm not crazy about any of them personally. And 2.7 acres is not really
No.
a hill of beans in this
Well,
whole thing.
You'd have to combine those two because it's gotta be a minimum of 5 anyway. So
Okay.
you'd have to put those two together. Just
Those
by
are
the
different owners?
line.
Well, you could-
It's like a divorced couple, right? That's what I understand. That's what I understand.
But you could zone over two different properties.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take 8 off again. I just want to bring it back for discussion. It got shot down faster this time than it did the first 2 times.
We've been practicing. And what do we got?
All right, next
Anything?
is, Plainville Town Line. Down around.
Oh.
I guess there's 8 acres and 12 acres down around, I guess called Armitage or something like
Yeah,
that.
already.
These are yours, Chuck, so. And then I highlighted another piece of property on this right one that I found, but we didn't talk about, so.
It's owned by Jamook and who owns the downtown property in the Village Zone A, Central Motors there. That
Oh.
came in to Placido, was gonna redo that.
So the 2 we talked about, I believe, Chuck, with the 2 on the left.
4. Yes.
He owns that?
He owns the 280 Berry Street, yes.
Well, the two on the left, the ones you brought up, Chuck.
Yes.
Those are the
The
two.
The Armitage, former Armitage,
Now you
junkyard.
can only get 20 acres out of those two.
Yeah, and
But with the one you're talking about, if you did like that 13 and the other 12, you'd have 25. I don't know if there's wetlands in there.
You have to include,
Number one, like number,
one, yeah.
whatever, the picture on the right. And then number 4, the bottom left,
Oh.
is this the wetlands overlay?
Correct. This is the excluded land overlay.
So there's 16.9 acres that's not excluded. Is that what that's
No,
telling
didn't
me?
Calculate that, no. I didn't do that
So
calculation.
1, 4 in that
This is just to
property.
give you an idea.
Okay, so the excluded wetlands, let's call it that, yes?
Yes.
Are on the side where you try to get out to Berry Street, so you'd have to go out to Route 1A. Pretty much.
Doesn't have any access to Route 1A.
Well, there's that little driveway that goes in there, that's been there. Isn't that the,
I don't know, so somebody had just contacted because they're looking at doing a commercial property on the 1143 South Street.
I thought
And
somehow
I have
this,
to look to see what the subdivision plan was on that one.
I guess I thought those were contiguous, but they're not. Okay.
The 1143 South Street and South Street rear, 1143 South Street rear, yes, those are.
Yeah, I
contiguous.
thought maybe the bottom one of those two and the 280 Berry Street were contiguous, but it doesn't seem like they are.
They are not.
What's that?
That's somebody else's property.
Right.
Do you want to include it?
did you all of that?
Yeah.
Make that one? How many acres would that be?
What's the cross hatching?
That's sensitive area. So in this, on this map, it's the surface water protection zone B and C and zone 2. All of Wrentham is pretty much.
Because
in
if
the
you
zone.
included that one that's at the end of that little
Cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
then you would have a contiguous.
Yep.
Lot, right?
That's,
Okay.
yeah, that was not
Contiguous.
what was provided to me, so I did not put it in there.
Okay.
But yes.
Well,
you
I'm
can
just
do
figured that way that
Absolutely.
gives you the acreage.
Anybody know the name of that road right there?
Rose Drive.
Rose Drive. So,
So that could be
It's just
another
a pa- I think it's
25.
just a paper road.
Yeah, there's nothing.
I have
okay,
to do some research for
I
some
mean,
different person.
you could even do 4, 5, 12, 1. I don't,
Oh, yeah, 4, 5.
Now that gets more than, what is that for acreage?
it's more.
It's more. It's
So I guess you're
it's
saying,
13.
Are we looking at possibly doing the 25 acres in this spot?
Well, I don't know. That's a lot of commercial. I guess that
Yeah.
tax base. If you stick with the ones you said, Chuck, originally, those are things that need to be
20.
cleaned up, right?
That was my thought on them is. that
They may, it was a
down- it's-
reclamation,
On one, what's here shown as 1143 South Street, 8 acres.
Yeah.
And that has a 21 unit tier 1 on it.
okay, and the other one, we don't know that it does.
They do not.
There's no record, okay. All
It
right,
does not show up on Mass GIS, so I am going to assume it is,
It's
does
all
not
right.
exist.
So number 1 is out because of because of environmental.
no, it's not out, it's
No,
just,
It's not, I'm just letting you
it's an
know.
opportunity for us to have them do that as part of the development,
Oh, okay.
right?
But if they're gonna, if Rachel's saying now somebody's talking about doing a commercial development there, they would still have to clean up for that anyway.
Yes, anybody that's gonna develop that site is gonna have to clean it up.
They could do it as commercial, they could do it as residential if we overlay both, right? It's 20 acres.
But then, the concern that I will say again is if you're picking sites that have problems with them. And those are the only sites you're picking, you're now forcing this MBTA project. I know that's not your concern, I'm just,
We haven't picked
I'm-
just sites that have issues.
Okay.
And
Yep.
some of these could use cleanup, which benefit the town if we're gonna have the housing impacts.
Okay.
I don't think we've picked all sites that have contamination on them, Rachel, that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. We're picking sites.
well, I don't know
that-
which sites you're gonna ultimately pick at this point.
That's right, we're a working
You know?
group and we're working,
Yeah, I
Correct. That's what we do.
Is this our final sheet for of the choices?
That, I believe, concludes the list of
Okay, got it.
bubbles
Got
that we
it.
had, that we've narrowed down to
Oh, great.
now sites.
Is there some reason not to do like 25 here and 25 there and call it a day? Cause it seems to me we have a site that has about 25 acres up on Route 1. Have some safety concerns up there, right, near Foxborough. We have a site that we could get 25 acres on over by the Franklin Street, going into Franklin, right? We have this site here, which if we overlaid a few lots, we could get up to 25 acres. So we could almost go to the board, to the full board and say, we get these three, which two do you like? You know, we don't really like the smaller ones that have showed up here much anyway, right?
Right.
Are we complicating it more than that? I mean,
Probably put more than three into the model and just make sure that they work. You might have to have something if it doesn't work. Back.
well, but it's almost like any one of the three is a backup to the one, you know what I mean? It's like, cause that's the thing, if you've got 25 acres and you say, well, this 25 acres works, okay, there's your major one. You know, these two don't, okay, great, so we'll give like 5 acres there, 5 acres there that do work, and then, I don't know, it just seems to me.
My only thing with doing it as 225s. And I don't know this, I'm guessing that it would be more cost effective to build 125 acre development than it would be to build five acres, because you're only having to deal with one set of.
Well, then they wouldn't have to worry about the fact that they had an extra cost of development over here and over there. You know, on the one hand, right?
So,
I mean,
if you have a 5 acre parcel and you gotta take an acre of it and build a water treatment plant, wastewater.
so you're doing a mid-rise instead of a low-rise to make up for that, and you say that's better? I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, I'm thinking from the standpoint of. If I'm a developer, am I gonna wanna develop a bunch of 5 acre lots that each have to have?
Correct. That's the point for us.
I understand, but
As opposed to
on
the
our
25
list,
acre where they build one wastewater.
Why do we care what?
maybe that would be
No.
ideal,
No, and.
but we don't have 5 handy 5 acre sites that,
We could
Do
come up with
we?
them. I think we could.
What I'm saying is,
what
from
happened
the
to
standpoint of making it. Let's say what we're thinking, making it less desirable to build it.
Yeah.
We're better off with a 5 acre piece. And any parcel that you have to develop in this town, you're gonna have to do wastewater treatment. Doesn't matter whether it's 25 or 5, doesn't matter whether it's on Route 1. But so anybody, you know. The state is gonna have to understand it. Okay, this is gonna be a certain financial output that the developer is gonna have to make to handle the wastewater. It's when you're adding other things on top of that make it prohibitively expensive that I think the state might balk at. They can't look at this and say, well, you can't make them build on that because they have to build a wastewater treatment. They're gonna have to build wastewater no matter where they build it. But if I'm thinking that a 5 acre piece that has to have its own wastewater treatment is less attractive than a 25 acre where. Yeah, they have to build a bigger one, but then they still have a much larger area that they can build.
Okay,
And I don't know, I don't know the cost.
how big is our red light district? The marijuana one or whatever it is, I just call it the red light district.
I think we knew, you weren't here, we nixed that one because we
We
said
did
that's
it a
not.
long time ago, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah, no, that was at a meeting, that was at a regular
Yeah,
meeting.
I know.
Because they could
And
build,
You can't,
Housing.
because if you look at the uses that are allowed,
You can't do it.
adult uses and good for families
Oh, right.
are
right.
not.
Okay,
so
I just wanna say, Mr. Everett put in the chat, 280 Berry Street would not be my choice.
why not, Bill? To cross the street from his house.
no, I think we can take number 1 off.
I don't think you can see it from there.
We can get rid of that.
Okay,
I was gonna comment, Chuck, on your. I like the idea of 125 and then a number of smaller ones. I don't know what it's not 5 5s, it's maybe
But
whatever it turns out to be, because. If they're a smaller lot, they're condensed by setbacks. Yes, they have to put a septic on,
Yeah.
which brings down the count even more. Exactly. Likely, they won't be 15 units an acre. It's zoned for that, but they won't build it, which would be less impact on the town. That's,
They can build 15 units per acre on the acreage that they have that they can build on. But if they have to eliminate 2 of those acres because of, this is an acre for, I don't know how.
we're not gonna let them build 20 units per acre on the
No,
lot.
And that's
and
not,
that's what I'm saying, right,
that's not
right.
what the state is saying. They understand that these communities are gonna have to, communities are gonna have to put on-site septic as well as potentially a well on each site, and they are not dinging you for that.
Right. So 15 acres on what net is left for them to build on.
Right. It's
Is
fewer,
less.
maybe it's 45 units.
All right.
75.
So why don't we take the 325 places that we have and rank them in terms of our feeling, if we can agree. Right?
Can we agree on what the 3, 5 acres
Yeah,
are?
the Franklin Street commercial, the Placido property. Right?
Okay,
The Route 1 traffic
Solar farm.
curious property. And this, down here by Armitage. If we add whatever lots to it, like not the Berry Street, but if we add a couple lots in here, we'll get over 25
we'll put it down.
on
there.
Rose Lane. Call it the Rose Lane properties or whatever.
Would we be going against one of our criteria, which was not to put 25 acres on commercial? If we did that,
You're doing it on.
You're doing it up in
Yeah.
Franklin, you're doing it,
that's true.
we're doing it up in Route 1, right? It's
I
like
mean,
we're pretty much doing it every considering.
Stick to the rules now.
Yeah,
Every place we.
Then yes.
Commercial.
Didn't,
Except for the.
The pit, the gravel pit.
Yeah.
I still like the gravel pit.
I know you
For the
do.
60.
I don't like the lot 3 on the gravel.
Yeah, I don't either.
Boy. Or we present, here's where we think we can get 25 acres on these 3, and we bring that to the board.
Yeah,
And then we say, and here's where we think in priority order, we think the rest of them should be to add up to 25, whatever increment that is.
right, and I mean, maybe there's only. I don't know what the math is, 3 that are 8 acres or whatever it is, right? Instead of 5 that are.
Correct.
5.012 acres.
It's a smaller,
Yeah.
a smaller property.
I mean, I understand
less
the
impact.
concept and ideally we would have, that perfect acreage, scattered throughout town available and, that would be wonderful, but I don't see that. But I do think. I think I'm listening back to the very first thing when I walked in that Rachel said, which is trying to divide a lot. That's trouble for 12.
I don't know if we're dividing, we're doing an overlay.
You're doing an overlay.
So they still have the underlying
Which
zoning.
one are you talking about?
The pit,
Area 12, the pit.
area 12.
Right.
It sounds like,
Not area 51, area 12. Who knows what's in that
May as
pit?
well
That's
be.
all I'm saying. I
You
think
may never come out again.
All right, it's, yes,
Based on your conversation at your last planning board meeting, as well as your last subcommittee meeting, I
Yeah.
reached out to MAPC with that question.
Yeah.
They then recommended that I reach out to the state with that question. The state responded and has set up a meeting to discuss
At the
that
end of the
with
month.
me.
I think it's still on.
nice. When is that meeting?
It's next 2 weeks from now. 25th,
After our-
27th.
After our next board meeting.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
I've asked Mike McKnight to attend, because I don't wanna be back and forth. with this.
Yeah.
So if it can be done before the plan, are any of those dates or times
No.
before?
No.
So we can't get it before the plan. board meeting.
Correct.
But I think it's still open.
But
If
it
we
could
could
be
do,
in time for your next subcommittee.
We could
It's-
throw it out there as a possibility, subject to, right, what Rachel may find out when she meets with the state.
Nope, and Mike and I meet with the state, not just.
well,
Mike's gonna have to get used to talking with the state.
you guys
Fair enough.
could be part of that. It's not
I
exclusive
don't
to
mind coming
me.
along.
I don't know when it is, like.
It's information gathering. It's not like one, 2 of us or 3 of us are gonna sit and make some decision. This is information gathering for the full board to make a decision, so, it
I will-
does seem
I
to
will ask
me.
if they can record it as well, for those of you that think they
Great.
can't.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let me revise this. We could put it out there to the board at our next meeting. Of possibly doing 25 acres overlaid, subject to what Rachel and Mike found out when they meet with the state.
And whoever else may be there.
that day too.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll do battle with the state. I have
Let's
no
just say,
issue.
let's
I have
just
no
say
issue asking the
what Mike
questions and-
finds out when he
and
talks to the
holding-
state.
and holding their feet to
Let's
the-
leave Rachel out of it. She doesn't, she's
Holding
just the
their-
middleman here.
holding their feet to the fire on intent versus
If you-
what they're looking for and why we can't do what we think we wanna do.
There you
You can get that out of them. You will be my hero.
Okay. Well,
Because I
Just
just.
keep asking them the
I
question,
don't-
why can't we?
I
Why
don't have-
can't we?
I
What
guess,
prevents us from? It's an overlay district.
it
They're
does
just
seem,
concerns that I'm bringing up. It might be a flag that you may wanna look at. It doesn't pass the smell test from what I've sort of
So-
interpreted from what they've been presenting. But
doing half a lot, like overlaying half a lot, is that what we're talking about specifically now, or just that whole area back in?
different things that we've thrown out
yeah,
there.
just
Okay,
so.
so none of what we're doing passes the smell test?
No, everything's fine. It's fantastic.
Sorry, Rachel.
So we can consolidate the lots, we think we can get 25 acres and bring that to the board, we have 3 or. Those 3 options. What else would we prioritize for smaller lots that add up to 25 with what we have on the table? If we go down the list. We didn't exclude 1, we have a question mark. We did exclude 3. We didn't necessarily exclude 2, but
It's
maybe
a
not.
bigger question mark,
Bigger
because it's
big.
the same question mark to an exponential degree.
There we go. Those 2 are question marks. We've nixed number 3.
Yes,
We definitely.
one of
looked-
our possibilities is number 5, if you call it that, or whatever, the 5th picture on that page. That one, on bottom right.
Or some version of that, right? Or some version of an overlay with the Placido without taking out the 40B component.
Right.
We heard about the commercial zone up top. Did we nix that because of what was said, or did we keep it in and Mr. Hinman might have to?
I still don't understand if it's still a wetland, but they filled it in. Is it still a wetland?
They didn't fill it in.
Fill it in, they gravelled out, they scooped out all
What
around it.
was here, the land was here, they stripped this, so the land that they stripped is now lower than the wetland. How that's a few years back now, so maybe those wetlands no longer qualify as wetlands, but it was an abuse of the earth removal part of our bylaws.
How much below the wetlands are there?
15 feet.
You look up, I would say roughly 10 to 15 feet, something like that.
Be part of the development plan is they have to fill that back in. And restructure the wetlands. I don't know.
The question is, the hassle for a minimal, relatively small wetlands, it's not worth the time and effort.
It's only net 17. Well, it is net 17.
You have to weigh your side where you want to enforce.
Yeah.
Can't do it every time.
It's a possibility. I guess it hasn't been totally.
It's certainly a possibility, and it's only a possibility for the smaller
Smaller one, right?
one
2 is the same question mark, I think, Rachel,
as 1, right?
as 1. I think you could put a star around the bottom right.
Ooh,
We got a new,
it doesn't have to be gold. Should just be a star,
just be star.
maybe a bronze star, because it's injured in
You wanna put a
action.
question mark on the top right?
I'm just trying to sort this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Go to the next page. We said no
Yeah, we nixed
on the
number
left.
the left. Yeah,
We have, strong, 2/3 strong support, and 1/3
Maybe 50.
we have
support.
we have a star there. It's one of the 3. And, you know,
Certainly throw that out to the board. I'm only one member.
and then,
I'm kind of with you, I'm not sure.
and then did we nix these 2 because they're just too small? Them together could be one of the smaller sites.
Correct.
I just don't like the Route 1 thing. I mean, because they're so small, but I guess
Well, with the
together,
outdoor
maybe
rights.
there's enough room.
And they're close to the T station.
I understand,
If we need, how much do we get out of those?
6 acres, some,
Yes, so-
7.2 acres.
6 could
I
be
think there's a
valuable.
lot of excluded lands that might be, so, on there. but-
Between the 101 and 103.
The hills and everything else.
I'm okay with excluding what you guys are.
Well, the only reason to keep them around is if we need an extra small little spot to fill things in my opinion. Otherwise, I don't think they're ideal for the purpose, you know?
7 acres, do you think, how much is excluded of that? Is it? a Small amount or a large amount?
Oh, we'll keep them on there.
We got question marks.
All right, so question mark that. That's fine. And then, next page.
And
Said
star between the two, up
one or both of those if we need.
Star
to.
between the two, yeah. Well, I mean, if we add another lot nearby those two, we get our 25. That's our third possibility for 25 acres. Down there.
Or smaller, if we
Or
choose
smaller.
smaller.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Start that.
And just because we,
You know, if Armitage is 8 acres, there's one of your 3 8-acre parcels or whatever,
There
right?
you go, yep.
You know, so that's why I'm saying,
Same with the lower, I think. Good. And then, like you said, well,
or just put the star between the two, right over the 10.
I
Yeah,
don't
something like
wanna
that.
leave it up to
No, that's fine.
interpretation, so I'll put them right on there.
Good. So,
probably.
so that to me is kind of the analysis we've done so far. So let's try this. If you had to choose one of those 3 25s that we're considering, and you could only vote for one, which one would it be? And you're next.
I like it. Lassiter, Route 1, and then what? What's the third?
The Armitage.
Armitage. Well, we don't get a full 25 unless we include that other lot that has an X.
Right, figure it out.
right, yeah, we can always, because it's overlay, it doesn't mean that it's.
You're not destroying something that's.
And I add-
Right,
Can I add
and they
one
don't
thought?
have to be contiguous owned by one person, and then, you know, so
Right.
it's multiple.
That would be way
multiple
too
parcels.
complicated.
Can I challenge the 3 that should be 4?
No, you
Because we
can't.
haven't included the sand pit?
Nope, you can't. I'm still waiting for Chuck to answer. He's like, I'm not talking to you yet.
He's got a shortened list.
You have it as a question mark.
Until
both of
you
those.
do battle with the state, we're not
You're
putting that
not
on there. I'm
including it?
not
Oh,
buying
okay.
it.
They're both as question marks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not off the list.
Come on,
They're
Mr.
the
Woodhams.
list.
Decisiveness is a value. If those were the 3 we could choose from, which one would you? choose?
Placido, Route 1,
And
or Armitage?
Yes.
I think I would probably go with the Placido.
Thank you. You don't have to vote that way when it comes to the full board vote. How about you,
Based
Mike?
on those
If you had those,
Placido.
the Placido. You know what? I think I would probably think the Placido, but I am torn between the Placido and Route 1. But I have to choose one, I would say the Placido. So we actually think, contrary to all likelihood, that there's like agreement here that that might be the best one. So if we had that as the 25, you know, we can say to the board, you know, we pulled fingernails and made the board choose of those 3. And lo and behold. You know?
Oh, then you pick, maybe Armitage is the second one, either one or both.
Yeah,
That gets you 20 acres or gives you 8 or 12.
right.
Right. Use that
And
as.
then you don't have to mess with
as
Route 1.
Possible.
And again, if we can overlay half, maybe you overlay the, I don't know. Can you overlay 10 acres of that one, that pristine one up off of 140 by
That's the
East
thing.
Street,
If
you know?
If we can overlay part of the parcel, of part of one of these
you know, and
parcels.
then
that's
we
a
get
whole-
6 acres
Now
on,
we've
you
got a
know,
whole- now we
on
got a
a
whole
big
different-
field, but we don't develop the whole thing. But the question is, do they develop all the frontage and now the backland is useless? That's maybe not fair to the property owner or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they would have the ability to do either, and then maybe because you put the overlay on, and they built this as 2.5 story apartments and this is residential.
The rest of it, I mean, it's right now, it's zone residential, they could put houses on it tomorrow if they really wanted to. Right? It starts.
Yeah. But I mean, my point is, if you can split it, or if you can overlay a portion of a lot.
If we can overlay a portion of a lot, I would put it in the pit.
I understand, and that's fine, and that may be, you know, a backup strategy that we have. And I think we should present it as such.
Mike's able to, if
Well,
Mike,
sure, whatever, but
if
the
Mike's
point
able
is,
to wrestle that out of the state when he has his meeting with them.
that's his
then
job.
That would be my first.
I'm gonna get the phone number of the person who said, we're gonna meet you at the end of the month and we'll talk about it, and I'm gonna go talk to him.
There you go,
Alright,
there you go.
I don't think it's a hard answer. Can you overlay
Well,
MBTA on part of a zone?
I'm part of a
I
single.
think when you put
Part
it
of a
that way, it
single
would
part.
seem to be an easy answer.
You would think that would be.
Right,
It's.
it depends whether you're asking an administrator or a politician the question.
But you gotta make sure you're asking, you gotta ask, make sure you're asking the right question, which is, it's, can you overlay part of a single parcel?
Yes.
Right. You said so. Okay. I just wanna make sure that we, yeah, because if you could overlay.
Without going
25
out of the zone.
'Cause I-
Like say,
I-
you could-
If you
understand
could
your
overlay
point
25
about
acres of a
zoning
70 acre
running.
lot,
But with overlays, I
We
don't
do
think
that.
it's the same. And I mean, because that would also give us the possibility of just overlaying 5 acres of a 6.5 acre lot here and 5 acres of this over here. And I mean, if we really wanted to get,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why they wouldn't let us do it. You know, maybe that's their best reason not to let us do it. You know, but I'm just saying, we could precisely get what's required and no more than is required if we could do it that way. Otherwise, we're having to cut and piece certain lots together to try to get to what they want from us, and maybe that's the argument as to why they shouldn't make us do it that way. You know what I mean?
There should be an
So
answer. I gotta believe somebody's asked that question.
if not,
They should have the Q&A of all the towns that have asked questions. We can just look down through and say, oh,
that actually would
right?
be a time saver, I would think, but maybe not. Anyway,
All right.
so what else?
I
are
did
we-
ask them, for all 50 pre-adoption letters, those communities that did choose to go through pre-adoption. There's about 50 of them. I did ask for copies of those letters. I do have all of them.
Oh, well.
If you would like them, I can share
I would
them
love
with
them.
you in a few different emails. You will still also have to look at the bylaw because it is not, you can't discern what they're talking about, for sure. Might not be able to, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at
It
them.
might be beyond me, but it may not, or I might be able to at least understand a little more than I understand now from some of the language. It would be a worthy use of my time.
part of the problem is trying to guess what the state's gonna say is acceptable and what it's not, because nothing is as black and white as we'd like it to be.
So
And
these-
That's
my,
zoning, so zoning
Oh, I
is
know.
not black and
I
white,
know,
or planning isn't black and white, there's a lot of gray area.
So these 50 are these are the ones they wanted to get reviewed. This
These are
is the
communities
proposed
that
ones
chose,
that they asked review these, please.
these are communities that chose to go through a pre.
They got their review by August 1 in under the deadline and whatever, and these are the
Correct.
ones. I got it,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. That's what I thought I
That
would
could
be
be
able to say.
interesting.
Because there will be, but we won't know what the determinations are, we'll just know basically, this is the letter of introduction and the justification for, we think this works, tell us it does, please, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
don't know.
there is a spread, I did provide a spreadsheet, that the state has on their website that lists all of the communities, you know, the 177 communities, where they're at. You
Yeah.
know, what they've adopted, the pre-adoption, this and that. The one that's in your packet is just narrowed down to those adjacent communities.
Yeah.
So you can compare those.
But I would think it would be illuminating to hear how they're. Like, what's the, I don't wanna say argument, because that's a lawyerly thing, but they probably are arguments. What's the argument they're presenting to the state for, hey, how about this? right? This is why justification or explanation, whatever the better word is, right? Like, here's our explanation of why we think this works. That could be illuminating to me just to read through that, you
Yeah.
know, and see how they're approaching it, how they're presenting it, all those other things. And if what we're talking about is a completely different thing, then we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a pretty compelling story of locating it nearest to the T stations that are not in our town. If they don't like that, then, and I know there's liberal communities, all kinds of other things out there.
Is there a Plainville T station, is there?
No, there's not.
But there's
with
495.
But with the Foxborough having a permanent station, we will become a adjacent community. We will-
No, what I was saying is, so
There's a gap.
that argument works least well on the Armitage property, is what I'm saying, because it's
Not necessarily, 'cause you can jump on 495, you go up, one exit, and you. have
nowhere
the T
near as
station.
close as the Route 1 property, nowhere
Correct,
near
it's
as
not.
close
But
as
it-
Franklin Street is to the Franklin.
Every town around.
No, that's Avon.
What is it,
I wonder we had a bus
Is
port.
it,
Because every
what's,
town
is
that-
it,
Oh.
I was a fan of that.
is it King Street that goes out to the Cumberland Farms?
Foxborough
and the
only
T station
just
at Forest Park?
recently after.
No,
the
it's
MBTA
not. It's
community
Route
app.
140. It's central, West Central Street.
It's up there. Okay.
Yeah, it goes out
Yeah.
past the mall and then it goes down past BJ's, and that's where the Forge Park station is. And then the Forge Park development, there's a commercial development and a residential development up the hill there.
You're right, Armitage probably is the least close.
It's the least proximate to an actual existing T station. So that argument works least well for that parcel.
But does it have other properties that would make it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very close to 495. You can go either way. You can
Because
get
the
where you're
whole,
going.
right, the whole reason that the town is considered adjacent is because if you take our, closest point to the, to the T stops, yes, we're within 2.5 miles, but the bulk of the town isn't anywhere near that, but, certain
Yeah.
remote points of the town are. So,
But it's not because of certain mileage, it's just because we're adjacent to a town that has a
Right.
stop within it.
So you're saying it won't work to just like sell Foxborough a tiny little sliver of Wrentham so that we no longer have the 2.5 miles or whatever it
Yeah.
is?
no,
Nice try, Chuck.
that's not-
I like the idea though. I like the idea. Other comments from the subcommittee? We'll open it up
Not
for
a-
public comment.
I think I've said more than I
Since we got
should.
it. We'll package it up, we'll put it through this group for review before it goes to planning board, make sure we
Fine.
all caught what we said we thought we caught. Any public comment? Looks like
Never
Mr.
left.
Skinner is gone.
I would just say, it seems to me having 2 or 3 parcels makes more sense since you look at all ways to try to get small parcels. And everywhere we look, we end up with issues. So I think Jim's comment, maybe just say, these are the 3 we're gonna go with and spread them up so we get 50. That seems to be the more sensible way to do it. Realizing some of them might get developed. That's not avoidable.
Okay.
Understood.
Anything else?
anything else?
A motion to close the subcommittee meeting?
Do you want to vote on the meeting minutes?
Oh. Sure.
Motion to approve minutes of July 30th, 2024, such typos.
Second.
Motion to second discussion, for vote, Mr. Woodhams.
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence.
Aye.
Mike McKnight, aye. 3 in favor, no one opposed, motion carries.
We want to schedule another meeting. Or do we have one
So this
already?
gets a little tricky. Rachel won't have to put up with me much longer. I am going away.
Wait.
I'm going away.
One second.
Galaxy, far. Let's see how far away. We have a meeting next
21st.
21st. I will be traveling on business, but I have set it up so I can again be in a hotel room. Love those meetings.
Bravo.
We could do something on the 28th and then I'm gone for 2 weeks. So,
28th is a Wednesday.
2 weeks from today.
sorry, 27th. So you did on
2 weeks
Tuesdays?
from today.
28th, I have.
And we will have had our chat at 2 PM with them too, which I have to.
I am,
Oh, that's that day.
I'm in favor of that.
27th.
Yes.
I can, yeah. 28th, I have,
I missed it. It was,
I have another board meeting the 28th. I couldn't make it anyway, so.
that's good, because Tuesdays are the days, 27th.
Yeah.
and Tuesday. Yeah, all right. Let's do that, and then I will not be here for the meeting on the 4th. So good luck.
thanks.
If we don't have one, then the 11th, I will be back for the 18th. So if you want a subcommittee meeting on the 11th too, just invite,
Mr. English,
I,
move adjourn.
second, motion second, discussion, let's
Let's
adjourn,
adjourn.
Mr. Woodham.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.